I wanted to start by apologizing. Our main presenter had a family emergency come up late last night, and he is not able to be here. So I was scrambling around. So I apologize if this is a little unorganized, because I got the presentation late, and we'll make this happen. It'll be a great presentation regardless, but
it's always great.
It's not what it was supposed to be. And Connor's here, so that'll make it certainly much better, or at least much more entertaining, right? So.
Listen, I can promise to add some levity and some stupid questions. That's all. I make no other guarantees.
That is all we need from you, sir.
All right, perfect. Glad to help.
Great. So here we are. We're going to talk about connected to the classroom technology today, and I got to make sure my clicker is working properly. There we go.
Nice.
Connected to the classroom. I figured it out. See, technology. So what's happening today? High quality audio, right? I think actually one of your colleagues, Connor, said it best, is you can make a meeting or a presentation happen with video, and it will look great, but guess what doesn't happen if you don't have audio? You don't have your meeting, right? A lot of people ignore that fact because video is so fun and it's so cool and it's really important. But if you don't have audio for your meeting, it's not a meeting because you can't hear what's happening, right? And as far as higher education goes, it's a completely new world we're in as of last year, right? We have a global pandemic that took us from, boy, it would be neat if we could do virtual learning or hybrid learning, and man, that would be cool. Let's figure out a way to do that, is to now you don't really have a choice, right? So many of the schools and colleges have had to scramble around, figure out a way to make virtual learning and hybrid learning a thing while still maintaining the social distancing requirements that have been put in place, and that's still going on today. And it sounds like it's going to be going on for a little while. So today we're going to focus on, I'm going to do some reading, improving presentations and discussions, with the key here being high quality audio to make sure everybody hears what you're talking about, and the student experience is top level. We're going to highlight considerations that should be taken while designing and implementing AV systems for sound reinforcement, distance learning and lecture capture, enhancing your audio experience while maintaining social distancing regulations, which is probably going to be an ongoing thing, at least in the distant future, and maybe for a while. So let's talk about a background of Shure real quick. Shure is an audio company, specifically microphones is where it started. These are all of the vertical markets that Shure covers. Touring sound, we know touring sound, live events, studio recording. The area of focus that we will be looking at today are these vertical markets, specifically education, but because all of these vertical markets have some overlap and similar technology is needed to make all of these things happen, we'll be talking about a little bit of all of it and how it works together. Education being the primary focus, but also conferencing and how that applies to education, presentation, how that applies, how small corporate boardrooms can apply as well as government applications. So Shure's history, they have been around a long time, almost 90 years. Probably somewhere up here, you'll see a wired application of a microphone that you've recognized from a stage somewhere. The SM58 is the most notable one there in the middle. The SM58 has been around for a very long time, has been on many famous stages, and you'll see it for a long time into the future. In fact, SM58 Day, May 8th, is coming up, 5/8, and you'll see a lot of cool stuff happen from Shure. But there's been a lot of new products in the wired market right now. The Beta 58's been around a while, but now we're going to talk about MXA 910, MXA 310, network solutions, USB solutions, and so we'll see a lot of this stuff in the presentations going forward, and you'll see a lot more of it as we move on. Also, Shure is in the headphone market. They've been in studio headphones for a long time, but they do some really outstanding Bluetooth wireless earphones and headphones, and there is more of that will be coming in the future. The True Wireless BT here is a new product. I think Connor has a pair of these Ionic 50 headphones.
They're still in the mail.
They're still in the mail, yeah.
FedEx.
Well, then I'll get you the rest of these in the mail too. So
perfect.
And of course, Shure is well known for wireless solutions on all the biggest stages that you see, as well as in-ear monitoring systems, from houses of worship to huge stages to corporate presentations to education. Our main area of focus today will be around this wireless conferencing discussion systems, around networked audio solutions, and all of that together is what makes up what Shure refers to as the Shure ecosystem. The Shure ecosystem, and you'll see examples of this. I'll do audio demos of this later on in the presentation. That's what I hope to do at the end of the presentation here. If there's time, I'll walk you around our conference space here and do some real-time audio demonstration of what's happening in our conference room, which we have most of these examples. We have a mute button there. That's a networked mute button that works on the Dante network. MXA 310, which is a smaller profile table array mic. MXA 910, which is a ceiling microphone. MXA 710, which can be mounted in just about any possible scenario. Ceiling networked PoE loudspeaker, and software and digital signal processing. And on the topic of software, Shure actually has quite a selection of software applications. There's Designer, which is used to design and configure a lot of these networked audio solutions. The System On solution is for monitoring all of these devices, and then Wireless Workbench is used for coordinating a lot of the RF that goes into it, which has become quite complicated with the changes in the FCC. So, all right. So this is where we're focusing today, education. You can see these are some examples of spaces that have been installed in the past 12 months. University of Southern California, you can see an MXA 710 there. And this is all over the world. So you have Leeds School of Business, you have University of Bedfordshire in England, and all of these are used for distance or hybrid learning applications. And this is what we're going to get into today. So here's some of the products in the ecosystem. MXA 910, it's a ceiling array microphone. It can be mounted in a drop ceiling tile. It can be mounted with cable ties like it is there, cables. Pole mounted. It is for precision steering. It covers larger spaces and can be used with other networked microphones. The MXA 310, you'll hear all of this later on in the presentation because we have a 910, a 310, we have MXW there. You have the MXA 310, which is meant for smaller rooms, tabletop mounted only. P300 is digital signal processor for Shure for smaller applications. Designer system, we've talked about this. This is how you configure all the Shure software. This is what Dobil uses when they're installing these solutions on your location. They're going to use the designer system configuration software to design all this, and it all works very seamlessly together. INTELLMIX Room is a new software audio processing. It is got the technology of the INTELLMIX P300, but it is all in an in-room PC working side by side with your soft codec like Zoom or Teams or Cisco or whatever you're using for your conferencing and distance learning software. System On helps you monitor and manage your networked audio devices from Shure campus-wide. So you can see where there's faults, where there's issues. You can see it all from a single pane of glass, and it's become very useful, especially with larger installations across an entire campus. ULXD and MXW are both wireless solutions that work when there is not the ability to hard install a wired solution, and wireless is more apt. And new is the MXA 710 and the MXN5W network loudspeaker. The MXA 710 works just like the MXA 910, but it's a smaller profile, smaller price point. It's got steerable coverage, just like the 910, not quite as precise. It's got the same autofocus technology. It's got the same DSP built into the microphone as the 910. It's a smaller profile. It can be mounted vertically next to a screen, horizontally. It can be mounted on the ceiling. It can be mounted on a tabletop. So there's lots of options where there wouldn't be that option for the 910 or the 310. So it's a really cool new solution out there at a good price point. It falls in between the 310 and the 910. And I think Dobil has already installed quite a few of these, if I'm not mistaken, right, Connor?
Yeah, so we do have a couple, maybe more than a couple in some classrooms. We have some on carts, and they're a perfect fit, especially when budget's an issue. And as we all know, budget's been an issue for everybody for the last year and probably for the next year as well. So it's been a great addition to the Shure lineup, and a great addition for us to be able to sell and use in places that we would like to use that in 910. But it's been a great supplemental piece. Yeah,
absolutely. And it sounds really good. You'll hear it later on here as we get towards the end of the presentation. So the MXN5W network loudspeaker is really cool. We're using them here in our conference room. We've got them temporarily set up so we can hear the far end, and it's a PoE or PoE plus, depending on how loud you need them to get. 5¼ inch driver, two-way driver system. It's a low profile, shallow, so it can be installed most anywhere. And I think, Connor, you've installed a few of these as well, and it's really simple. It's PoE and it's Dante, so you can route things anywhere just like you would any other Dante device. Very simple to install. No amplifier needed, outboard amplifier, so it frees up rack space, and there's not a lot of programming that goes into it. It's pretty simple and straightforward. So
you nailed it.
Nailed it. So let's talk about software for a minute. The INTELLIMX room. This is what we're using in our conference room here for signal processing. INTELLIMX room software is the very first audio processing software for Windows 10 PCs, and it's optimized for conferencing microphones. So it is 8 or 16 channels of AEC. AEC is acoustic echo cancellation, so you don't get that massive echo from the far end when you're trying to process this. It's all the INTELLIMX room technology, just in a piece of software that sits on your room PC. There has been some very successful installs in higher education. I think there's a few universities in Illinois that have implemented this. This is very new software. But it's been implemented successfully in many classrooms because many of these classrooms have in-room PCs already. So it's very easy to just throw this DSP right on that same PC, and it handles all the digital signal processing and routing that you need for a Dante system for a medium-sized room. It works well with Teams and Zoom and BlueJeans and WebEx and any platform that could use this software. I'm using it right now on this particular platform that we're using, and it's very easy to use. It just runs in the background, and it's Microsoft only at this time. I think they're working on Mac very soon. They should have a Mac version for those. Yeah,
we got a question.
Yeah.
So, and it is relevant to the INTELLIMX here. So, they want to know how will INTELLIMIX handle a hot or echo prone room? How well does it work? So.
It works as well as so the INTELLIMIX in general. The INTELLIMIX software has some great features in it. In that feature is going to be a noise reduction feature, and what that does is it dials in the frequencies of the voice that like my voice that you're hearing, which is a typical, the frequency range of a voice goes anywhere from, I don't know, Connor, what is it, like 500 hertz up to 2K or so in there, and it finds those frequencies, and it kind of through algorithms eliminates the other frequencies in the room, which a lot of times will eliminate HVAC noise or unnecessary hissing noises that you would hear, some echoing that you would hear after the fact in large rooms, and it does a great job doing that. And that INTELLIMIX platform is in the P300, which is an outboard box. Let's say you don't have an outboard, an in-room PC, and you need an outboard signal processor. It has that same technology, but the software has that technology as well. So you can use all of that together. So does that answer the question?
I think so. We'll see if any more dialogue pops up here. I'll keep you posted.
Okay. Yeah, I know you will.
No doubt about it.
No doubt about it. Another good piece of hardware that almost every room needs is an ANIUSB-MATRIX. ANI stands for Audio Network Interface, and then USB and Matrix, right? You have flexible signal routing. So you have Dante in and out, right? 4 Dante inputs, but also that gets your Dante network onto your computer via USB or via analog through the line in and line out. And it's a PoE. So you can have this installed. And again, another example, Connor, I know you've installed several of these. If you have people that bring your own device and they just need to plug into an already set up room, all they have to do is plug in their USB to their computer, select that ANI-USB as the audio device, and you're good to go. It's already configured. You don't have to do any other configuring on the computer or anything else. And it's compact. It can be stowed away. So all they're doing is plugging in a USB cable.
Yeah, just to reiterate, I mean, it's that simple. If you bring in your device and you just need to grab that microphone, and it's like Andy was saying earlier, it's the audio piece of these conferencing and teleconferencing is probably the most important, because if I can't see something, I can hear you explaining and talking about it. It's really going to keep me involved in the meeting, in the dialogue, versus, if I can't see it, it's one thing, but really hearing it and being a part and involved is another. And this just adds an extra bit of flexibility to anybody coming into the room that needs to grab that piece of hardware. So.
Absolutely. And this, that goes essentially, what this does is if you have a huge network of speakers and microphones in a huge room, this via one USB cable allows you to connect to that entire room through that system there. And it makes it very simple to get on and off that Dante network just like that. So wireless systems, there's instances and rooms where a hardwired microphone or installed networked microphone just isn't going to work. The room doesn't allow it, or maybe it's a flex room that needs to have all the microphones put away, or it's going to be a different number of people that needs a tabletop microphone. So wireless is a great solution there, because the wireless can be racked away out of sight in a closet somewhere, and you can have the handhelds or the desktop microphones or the lavalier microphones at the ready to just turn on and do what you need to do. And you can pull out as many as you need, or you can put away as many as you need. Shure, of course, has several different options. One of them that isn't up there is what you will hear, and we talked about earlier, which is Microflex Wireless. It will look similar to some of the profile of ULXD microphones there. ULXD is digital and Dante. QLXD is digital. There is no Dante option on QLXD. It's a lesser price point. Axient Digital is the most versatile, because there's Dante, there's spectrum management through Axient Digital. And SLXD is new and allows, it's a cheaper price point, but it allows a lot of channels to be crammed into a small RF spectrum. So, and again, Connor, I know you guys have installed a lot of wireless systems in all different applications, you know, houses of worship, corporate, but especially higher education facilities.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, wireless has only become a bigger piece of what we're doing, especially when you're used to meeting in a boardroom with sitting at a table, sharing a microphone with two people. Yes, a lot of things are hybrid right now where you have some people coming in and some remote. But as people come back in, they may still have the need to be further away. And, you know, you may need to support them with more wireless and give people that flexibility. You know, we understand that staffing is hard for people right now as well, because people are still furloughed or laid off, or people have left for another job. So the wireless provides you a faster setup and teardown time in some of these boardrooms or larger rooms where you don't have an MXA or something in the ceiling or, you know, built into the table. So just another great option for you people to think about as well.
Yeah, absolutely. SLXD is the newest version of Shure wireless. It replaces the very popular SLX analog. And at this point, I think there is only one system left in the Shure library that is analog, and that's BLX, and that's the entry-level wireless system. Everything else has gone digital, and the reason for that is the RF spectrum has become so crowded because of the different things that the FCC has done over the last, I don't know, 5 to 10 years with moving things around for 5G and digital television, that a digital wireless system is the only thing that can fit many channels into a very small spectrum. And it does this with very crystal clear audio and low noise floor. SLXD specifically will do a quick RF scan and find the best frequency, use an IR to sync up the transmitter and the receiver. It's very simple to use. You can fit 32 channels, and this is the point I was making earlier. You can fit 32 systems in a 44 megahertz band. And that's just a single band. Now that depends on the operating environment. You know, if you're going to get downtown New York City or something, that may be slightly less depending on where it is and how close to another FCC radio station or TV station you are. But you can get a lot of systems crammed into a very small RF space, and that's good. The other nice thing is you have 8 hours of battery life, whether you're using AA batteries, which you have that option, or you can use Shure rechargeable batteries. And the rechargeable batteries are nice because when you're in a room that you need all of these transmitters put away, you just pop them right back on the charger. They'll charge up, shut down. So it's very install friendly, which Dobil will like. You can manage multiple systems and group scans together over Ethernet control. So it's networkable, not Dante, but networkable, so you can manage all of that together. And then you have a wide variety of microphone options. So you can get all kinds of cool microphones. You can get, you know, the KSM9, the Taylor Swift microphone. I know Connor wants the Taylor Swift microphone.
It's my favorite.
It is. So let's look at some room examples here, and let's see where we're in time. Okay, I'll try to get through these so we can hear some audio examples as well. Room examples. All right. So typically and traditionally, without pandemic and social distancing requirements, this is very common. Everything's in person. You have sound reinforcement happening with a wireless microphone. This is Axient Digital in this case. That's got Spectrum Manager hooked to it and body pack options, handheld options. Of course, there's encryption, there's Dante audio, and then you would have a traditional PA system that is broadcasting the wireless microphone to the rest of the classroom so everybody can hear it. If there was a need for virtual learning, usually it would just be, in this case, you would only be able to hear the professor unless you were passing around the microphone, which in pandemic times probably isn't the best choice, right? So that is kind of what your traditional sound reinforcement looks like, right? A variation of that is using the MXA 910 And typically what this would be used for was the 910 would be used for only the far side audio. So if there was somebody on the other end listening or tuning in to a live stream of a broadcast or a class, that's what you would use the 910 for. You can use it for voice lift, and this is where all the lobes are pointed. So there's nothing strapped to the professor. The professor doesn't have to carry around a handheld microphone. He or she can walk around the front of the classroom there, and all of the 910 gets pointed at the professor, and they can be heard. But you're going to run into a problem here, right, Connor? Because with a traditional PA system, the 910, in an effort to do voice lift, would run into some feedback issues, right? So in that case, you want interactive from the students, you want other people to be heard, especially on the far end, but you need voice lift so the professor can hear in the front, the student in the back left or the back right corner can hear, and so you need a solution for that. This isn't going to work because those speakers in the front are going to need to be very loud to be able to be heard in the back, and that's going to cause feedback issues in the front. So that's not going to work out very well. But there's a solution: ceiling speakers. And let's talk quickly about what voice lift is. Voice lift, I don't know if you can see my mouse. Can you see my mouse, Connor?
Yes.
Okay. So what voice lift does, and this is using the MXN5 ceiling speakers here, is it allows when the professor speaks here, none of these speakers are active. You can see the they have a spectrum, color spectrum. In the red here is the loudest speakers. So in the back, these MXA 910s here are picking up these locations of the front of the room. They can hear them in the back of the room here, right? These speakers are active. These speakers are not active here, or minimally active. So they can be heard here, but you don't run into feedback issues, right? So here's an example up. Somebody called on the back corner of the room. Now this area, this student is talking. Now these speakers become active through some advanced digital signal processing, and they can be heard here. Again, I think Dobil has done a good job with a couple of these types of systems where this has happened. And you can use Shure DSP for this. You can use various other larger DSP systems to make this happen. Here's another example of this back corner. This MXA 910 is picking up these students here, activating these speakers, these ceiling speakers here, so they can be heard by the students. And that's voice lift. But also, at the same time, all of these microphones can be plugged into your audio codec for a hybrid and distance learning experience, right?
Yeah.
So
these are very common room solutions that we install. Because they're common doesn't mean they're very easy to install or program or configure, but they work well when they're done right. So especially in recent times, and this frees up the professor to not have to be tied to a handheld microphone or a wired microphone or a wireless microphone. They can walk around the front of the room, be picked up by the appropriate microphones in the ceiling, and then broadcast to the far side to whoever is on Zoom or Teams or whatever platform you're using, but also can be heard across the entire classroom. Here's a typical lecture hall, okay? And then, so I'll kind of go through these quickly so we can get to the audio demonstration, because this is a typical lecture hall that's using a hybrid system of MXA 710s for distance, ULXD wireless to be heard within the room, and so the professor can be heard. This is a larger room, so the larger room with a higher ceiling like this would require a wireless system. Also using MXN5C, and all of it's being designed with Designer, implemented with Designer, and then used with System On to monitor everything. Here's a typical large classroom, and some of these get kind of redundant here with the two MXA 910s. This is a very simple setup, a P300 doing the processing into a PoE switch, so no outboard power is needed except for the switch. Your USB audio is going out of the P300, and then you have some analog I/O going to your video or whatever is needed for your bring your own device there.
Here's another hybrid solution using SLX-D as the wireless solution, going analog into the P300 here, and then everything else is on the Dante network, using System On and Designer, of course. And this is a smaller room here, but it's still a large classroom that's using only MXA 710s and a P300, and then the MXN5C ceiling speakers. And you can see, the point of this is you can see the simplicity of what we're getting into here. It takes some programming, but there's less wires. You're all centered in a switch. Everything sits on the network, and it can all be monitored by a System On, which System On is free, by the way. So, and System On has the capability of monitoring network wide, and so your entire campus. Here's a medium-sized classroom, a typical example using two MXA 910s. I know Dobil has done a ton of these, and I mean a ton of these. So there's, again, you can see how simple it is. It's two MXA 910s, P300, and then configuration. Also, these rooms can be used for voice lift if configured correctly. So,
yeah, the MXA 910 has just been such a strong product and such a reliable product, and offers that much more flexibility when we're installing in these spaces. Which just, it makes it kind of a go-to for us. The 710s, like I said before, are very nice. They come, the 2 foot and the 4 foot pieces, but the 910 is just so far above and beyond that. We just love that product.
The 910 gives you some real precision steering. So the lobes that you're seeing over here, if you can see my mouse, the 1 and 2 and 1 and 2, you can add more, you can shrink these down, you can move these around. You have some of the similar capabilities with the 710, but not as precise. So that's the compromise in the lower price. You don't have quite as much precision steering. There is some steerability, but it's there may be examples of this or not. You can see how the 910 kind of gives you some precision steering here into, and this example is a horseshoe room. That's a pretty common room for university. Yeah,
the best demo we had of it was in our old office, and for anyone that was ever there, we had it in our small conference room, and we could steer a lobe out the door down the hallway about 20 feet, and we could still pick people up. So it was that good and that reliable. So that's nice. What was sold.
Yeah. Here's another real simple one. A classroom that is using 4 MXN5 speakers, and MXA 710 that's mounted vertically on the wall, and an SLX-D wireless system for the professor. And the MXA 710 is just picking up the whole room in this case. It has the ability to just pick up the entire room. And there's a computer with System On that's monitoring all those network devices. So another one where there's 2 MXA 710s being used in the ceiling in this case, and then 2 MXN5C speakers. And again, you can see the versatility, and there's seemingly an endless amount of options there, right? All right, let's talk about the MXA 310 quickly. These are for really small huddle room spaces, collaboration room spaces. Get a couple of those on a table, and there is some limited steerability on these as well. And I can show you once we get the audio demo what's going on there. In this case, there's a room PC that's being coupled with INTELLIMIX room and a P300 for USB. So you're kind of doubling down on the DSP there. And you can see, because the P300 has a USB output, you get some signal processing as well as that same advantage that the ANIUSB-MATRIX has. And then here's a very simple study with a camera, USB camera, running INTELLIMIX room, MXA 310, MXN5 speaker. It's a very simple huddle library study. So here's one we haven't talked about. This is part of the wireless solutions. This is a discussion system. This is MXCW, so it's Microflex Complete Wireless. This is very simple to manage as well. It also sits on the network. Dobil's installed, again, a bunch of these. Rechargeable batteries. Each unit, each base station unit has a little speaker in the base unit. So when any of the other microphones are active, you're hearing the speaker, excuse me, you're hearing the speaker through that little unit. So if somebody is speaking up here, this speaker won't be active, but all of the rest of these speakers will be. So you can hear, it's basically a voice lift system with wireless tabletop microphones. There's some other features. These are typically used in, multi-purpose rooms, cafeterias, where you have to put the microphones away. These are used in government meeting, like city council meetings, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Just offers a ton of flexibility for easy setup and tear down of the space too. So
absolutely. And that's the key there. You don't want, like, let's say it's a multi-purpose room where there's a gymnasium. You don't want a expensive hardwired microphone hanging in there because it could cause, issues if a basketball smacks into it or something, right? So this is a great solution for that because it's a large room, but you can just set these out and then put these back on the charger in a cabinet somewhere and you're good to go. And I think this is the last one. It's a mobile cart, right? This is typical when there's maybe a teacher teaching from home, or teaching from a different location and you have a room set up here, camera. And so students can see the professor or teacher teaching from a video. Teacher can see through the camera and then hear through the MXA 710 running INTELLIMX room. And this can be wheeled in and out of that room as needed, as long as it can be plugged into the main network. All right, last one. This is relatively new. It's part of the Motive line that was originally launched for podcasting, but since a lot of this at-home learning or at-home teaching has been going on, this is a great audio solution for at home. If you're sitting in front of, just a single computer and you need a good audio solution, I think everybody's had the solution, had the issue with a lot of built-in microphones in your PC. You can hear a lot of clicking and clacking on the computer, and the microphones don't sound that great. This is an inexpensive USB solution for that.
Yeah, I can tell you, a bunch of us have them in our houses, the MB5 and the MB51, and they just kick ass. They're very plug and play, and they just sound great. Absolutely.
All right, so that's that. I'll stop sharing. Ask questions.
So what mic are you using right now is the burning?
Yeah, I want to get to that. Here, let's get to that. Let me figure out how to get. There we go.
It's somebody's technology.
My keyboard is not working. All right, so now I can see. So what I'm using right now, and Connor or Leah, stop me if there's questions that need to be answered. But I'm using an MXW microphone right now. And again, UXD has the same format. You can get longer goosenecks for this. That's what you're hearing me on right now. This is I'm not going to be moving very much. I'm going to be sitting here. I can kind of move this around and out of the way. It's wireless. It's got 8 to 10 hours of battery life, and it's rechargeable. It's a piece of cake, right? Nothing to it. I'm going to switch to same system that's plugged into our network here in the conference room. And by the way, our conference room it's relatively average, maybe medium to large size. It's got 12-foot ceilings, 30 foot deep, and 17 feet wide. So this is the gooseneck version. Here's an SM58 handheld version.
Sounds great.
So this is now I'm walking around, I'm presenting, or I need to hand it to somebody or whatever that may be for what I'm doing. Also in the MXW line, there's a boundary microphone that you can just set right on the table and kind of leave there.
Andy, we got a question about tuning the room with white noise or similar technology. Is there any recommendations or schools of thought?
Tuning the room like with white noise or similar technology? Like are you talking about sound masking or?
So I guess when we're installing the technology, how do the installers tune the room to make sure everything's working properly and just sounding balanced.
I guess that depends on who's installing it. I know kind of what Dobil does. Dobil is using Designer, and Designer has a lot of automated tuning features that they can use, but also Dobil has a lot of really high-level skilled technicians that kind of use their ears a lot of times to tune a room. So I guess it just depends, and that may be different from install to install based on the room acoustics and what's going on with there's so many variables that go into, especially in university classrooms, because as we all know, in our side of the industry, when building buildings for university classrooms, architects think of audio like below the very bottom item on the list.
Yeah.
So we have to come up with ways to compensate for really bad acoustic rooms. So
yeah, it's Charles, it's a great question because everything is so subjective. I mean, my ear is different than Andy's ear. I mean, we can get out meters and follow any guideline or suggestion, but it really comes down to what you're hearing in the space, or if it's a video conference room or teleconference room, you should be testing and doing far end tests with people as well. And
absolutely,
you should really get that honest feedback and try it in every scenario and try to, put the system through some paces and make sure that it's performing how you expect it to. No
doubt. And the Shure gear has DSP built. The networked audio gear has DSP built in it that is designed to really focus on voice, right? It's not necessarily going to be hi-fi audio because that's not what it's used for. It's used for voice. So it gives a good starting point to the tech or designer that's commissioning a room to tweak, either way to make sure the room sounds the best possible. So, all right, you want to hear some other stuff?
Let's do it.
All right, so we'll step up from wireless to another networked audio solution here. That's a hardwired install, and that's the MXA 310. All right, so the MXA 310, if you can see me, is sitting here on the table in front of me. Again, I'm using two different lobes. Typically, I'll have somebody on the other side of me, talking back and forth to whoever I'm talking to on the far end, and that's what you're hearing now. There should be a difference. You should hear a difference. I'm a little further away from the microphone, but it should still sound clear. It's something you don't have to mess with. It's touch capacitive around the entire microphone. And you can turn those mute and unmute colors any color you want to in the Designer software. So.
Yep, sounds good. I mean, you can definitely tell the difference.
Yeah, it's going to be. I mean, your best sound, like just like with any microphone, physics. You can't ignore physics, right? So the closer the voice is to the microphone, the better it's going to sound. No matter what. Now there is technology, Shure's technology does a good job of compensating for the distance. As you'll hear the MXA 910 here last, and you'll hear it sounds like there's going to be a little more room reverb or whatever that may be because it's further away, but it does a good job of still compensating for that and making clarity of the voice still perceptible across the long run there. So, all right. So we have an MXA 710 next. That's on the wall in front of me here, and it's a little further away. So we're going from about 6 to 12 inches here to about 2 feet here to we're like 5-6 feet there. And let me mute the 310 and unmute the 710. All right. So the 710 now is in front of me. Mounted to the wall in front of me. It's about 6 feet away from me, and I can, I should walk around the room quick just to show how far it goes back because we got 30 feet from where that is going to be, and you'll hear a difference, but you should still hear me very clearly. You may walk around. You got time?
Yeah, I know you got a bum hip, but if you can manage to shuffle.
I'm good. No, man, I'm jumping around. I'm good. So I'm going to keep walking around. Right, so I'm walking a little further back here, and you should hear more of the room, but you should still hear my voice really well. And We're going beyond what is recommended for distance at this point. Distance-wise, you're looking at 12 to 15 feet for the MXA710. I'm probably a little more than 20 feet at this point, 25 feet. You should still be able to hear me pretty well. I'm going to be walking, back towards it. My voice should sound like it's getting closer, but it shouldn't have too much interruption in volume or clarity of what you're hearing from what I'm doing. And now I'm back to 4 or 5 feet away from it. So
sounded good all the way through, even when we push it to its limit. So
right. Okay, cool. Now, lastly is the MXA910. Again, 12-foot ceiling, mostly right above my head, and I can walk around the room and kind of show you what that one sounds like too. So
just reiterate those mute buttons that you're pressing right there too.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me. I forgot about that. So you're hearing me through the MXA910 right now. It's about, I would say it's about 8-9 feet from my voice. A little bit kind of off center directly above my head. These network mute buttons are because when the MXA910 or the MXA710 is mounted on a wall or on a ceiling and you need a mute, you either have to, prior to these being around, you had to have a really, advanced control system, or you couldn't mute. You had to mute in the software or something, but these very inexpensive, simple, sit right on the Dante network, can be routed in Designer directly to these microphones. Touch capacitive. You can change the colors again to anything you want. They mount right flush to a table if you wanted to, right like that. Like all you'll see is this top part in a table. And that's, you can use as many as you want. You can tie as many as you want to one microphone, or in my case here, I have one tied to the MXA910 and this one tied to the MXA710, and it seems to work fine. So now I'll walk around here. We still got time?
Yeah, we're good. We
have a few minutes.
Yep.
Before everybody's got to go join another session here. So I'm going to walk around here again, and with the MXA910, just like the 710, there's the autofocus technology. So as I move, each lobe is going to track my voice to a certain limit, and it's going to move to the next lobe. And we have this room sort of haphazardly configured because we use it for demos. So it's been moved around and different things. So it's not even really commissioned to the level that Dobil would commission a room. It's just kind of thrown in there, and we've kind of just thrown some lobes around and make sure it works. So here I am in the very back of the room against the wall, about 28, almost the full distance away from the camera there, and probably a good 20 feet from the ceiling microphone. And you should still hear me fine. It should be, you should hear some room reverberation because this is a pretty live room. But as I walk around, it should not interrupt, and you can see how walking around the room has really no interruption on what you can hear or clarity that you can hear. It shouldn't be very disruptive to what you're hearing on the far end, and it should sound really smooth and clean. So
sounds good. I don't know. I don't have any other.
And then back to the very first microphone, the MXW microphone, right? So that's that.